Hello management aspirants. This clip will take you through the toughest challenge which you have to manage when you face the interview panel, and the question which we are about to address is how to introduce yourself in a personal interview when you face the MBA panel for admission to a business school. In this session, we'll cover the following challenges. Why this question? What is the need for this question to be there? What is the right way to introduce yourself? Is there one way in which you have to introduce yourself, or there are multiple ways thereof? Where do you stop the introduction? So how long do you need to introduce yourself, and where do you draw the line? What if the panel stops you midway? Let's look at the first challenge. Why this question? It's a funny situation. The panel knows that you've come prepared with the introduction part, and you know that you're required to introduce yourself before the panel. You know that this is the first question. So why at all is this question there? Well, the answer is because there are multiple challenges which you need to address. The panel is assessing you on different dimensions of your personality. Let's look at the first one, prioritization skills. Now, prioritization means what part of your profile will you place before the other? What part of the information would you want to present before other parts? And this sequencing will obviously go a long way in understanding whether you have the right way to organize and plan information or not. So the panel uses it as a yardstick to see whether you can sequence and prioritize information or not. Leadership skills. Now, leadership, of course, has a very strong and vibrant vibe. Leadership means that you are able to lead, you are able to direct, you are able to give a direction to the follower. In this scenario, you have to pose as the leader, and the panel should therefore be the follower. Are you therefore able to lead the panel into all those areas where you want that the panel should ask you questions? For example, if somebody says, I am a creative and passionate person with good interpersonal skills. Now, the minute you say this, you have been able to introduce certain challenges for the panel. The first one is creative, the second one is passionate, and the third one is interpersonal skills. So you are able to lead the panel onto three different dimensions of your personality. And if you have planned it like this, in all probability, the panel will ask you questions on these three dimensions. So this is how you lead the panel. You lead them to all those areas where you want to be questioned. Change management skills. Now, change management is a huge trait when it comes to managers. They have to constantly manage change. In fact, it is said that in the corporate world, change is the only constant. So the panel uses this as an opportunity to see how smartly can you manage change. For example, say you are talking about your family background. The minute you say, I have been brought up in a joint family setup, and my father does this, my mother does this, the panel can intervene at this point of time and ask you a question which is related to your family setup. Something like this. So how does growing up in a joint family setup prepare you for a career in management? So immediately the focus shifts from the core family to a larger management challenge, and that is how do you connect it with a personality trait which you're required to demonstrate as a manager. And if somebody has been brought up in a joint family setup, I think a wonderful way of presenting it could be that a joint family setup has nurtured your ability to take responsibilities in a collective manner, and therefore your team orientation has been developed while living in a joint family setup. So your ability to link it to a larger management challenge, to shift it from a basic unit to a macro dimension is what they are looking at. And this change management skill is important as a manager. Presentation skills. The panel is meeting you for the first time. The minute you walk in, the minute you sit before the panel, the first question invariably is, tell us something about yourself, and you start unfolding, you start making a presentation. The panel wants to see how smartly do you organize information, how smartly do you carry yourself, how smartly do you respond to the various challenges which the panel will put you through, how smartly are you able to lead them onto different questions. So everything is a part of this presentation. So how smartly do you present yourself before the panel is a huge challenge which you have to manage. Personality basics. Now, personality is the sum total of all qualities with which you interact with the environment. This question, the introduction part, is strong enough to assess certain core skills of your personality. I'm talking about attitude, I'm talking about behavior, I'm talking about communication. So the minute you start responding to this open-ended question, you start unfolding, and while making that presentation, you are able to demonstrate different traits of your personality. Your ability to own information talks about a positive attitude. The minute you discount that information, it sends a negative vibe. For example, you start off by telling him, "Sir, I am a mechanical engineer." Now, this is a claim which you have made. This your subsequent inputs have to support this claim. And if you go on to tell him that, "Sir, as a mechanical engineer, I got a chance to work on an application-based project." Now, this is where you link the two. This is where you own it up. This is where your attitude comes out, that you have a learning attitude. You have a positive attitude. You're not shying away as an engineer. So it does not mean that you have to present only one part of your personality. What I'm trying to say is that you have to highlight something which you are good at. This is the opportunity to demonstrate the strength in your personality. So what is the right way to introduce yourself? Well, we need to understand one thing very clearly. There is no right or wrong way. It depends on what part of your profile you wish to highlight. Suppose you are someone who has been actively involved in extracurricular activities, and somehow you could not score as much as a student. So I think this is the opportunity where you talk about learning from different sources and not just academia. So a good way of putting it across could be that, "Sir, learning has been one of my personality traits, and I have shown this learning while connecting with environment in different ways, both academic and extracurricular. On the academic side, this is what I've done. On the other hand, I also took an initiative to learn from sources other than academic ones. And I have been active participant in debates and dramatics. I was actively involved in sports, etc., etc." Now, what you are doing is you are trying to enlarge your profile. You are trying to tell the panel that I wasn't just confined to academic activities. I was looking at a larger picture. I was preparing for life. I was preparing for management. I was preparing to be a sports person. I was preparing to be a dramatist, a debatist, a quizzer, etc., etc. So these different dimensions which you add to your profile, they make it look very interesting, and they create something called a differentiator. You have to differentiate your candidature from that of the other participants. And this differentiation is all manifested in various dimensions of your profile. Top down versus bottom up. There are two ways of unfolding. There are two ways of introducing yourself. One is when you start from something which is recent most, and then you start moving towards once upon a time. Something like this: if you are a student in the final year of engineering, and you go on to say that, "Sir, currently I'm pursuing engineering from this and this institute. Engineering has been able to develop my analytical skills, and I got a chance to do various projects, And one of the subjects there which really interested me was total quality management, which is a part of a larger picture, which is management. And before that, I did my schooling from XYZ school, where I was actively involved in different activities, 1, 2, 3. So what you've done is, you have taken a top-down approach. You start from something which is recent most, and then go up to once upon a time. The other approach is bottom-up, where you start from your formative years, you start from what you did once upon a time, you talk about your school days, and then you graduate upwards and talk about college, and talk about different activities you have been a part of, and then talk about why you wish to take up management. So these are two different approaches, and there is nothing right or wrong. It has to suit you, and it has to suit your comfort level. Try to start with something which you are strongest at, because the first few words which you say, they have a huge impact on the panel's mind, and in all probability, they will form most of the questions based on these few inputs. Try to drop innocuous teasers wherever possible. Innocuous, harmless teasers. I mentioned about a term called leadership a while back. The introduction part is an opportunity which you have to lead the panel onto different parts of your personality. To drop those harmless teasers where you can be possibly stopped by the panel and asked a question. And this is how you plan it. I remember we had a student by the name of Akanksha. And every MBA entrance interview which he would face, the panel would ask her the introduction part, and she would start connecting with them by saying, sir, I wish to introduce myself as Akanksha. The word Akanksha means desire, and professionally, the word desire translates into ambition. Sir, I have certain ambitions. May I share them with you? Now, look at this way of teasing the panel into your ambitions, teasing the panel into your short-term, long-term ambitions, telling the panel that you have an ability to plan things, that you have clarity of thought, that you have something in mind. And this is where you can talk about why you wish to get into a management program. So starting with your name, you are able to connect it with a larger challenge, and that is your time-bound planning. So such teasers are suggested at different points in time during the introduction part. Ability to validate claims, more important than the claims per se. Please remember that whatever you are telling the panel in all probability is taking a note of it, and the minute you stop the introduction part, the panel is bound to start. And they will start with all those claims which you just made a while back. The minute you tell him, sir, I have been an active participant in debates and dramatics, the panel is bound to validate, verify this claim. And the next question would be, tell us about your achievements in debates and dramatics. Or, this is a topic for discussion, let us have a debate on this. So the panel will get you onto that challenge. You cannot be spared just because you said something and it sounded good. Even something as basic as a hobby. You tell him during the introduction part that I love to sing. We've had cases where the panel asked the candidates to sing. So that's not the time when you shy away. That's the time when you take the stage and verify the claim which you made a while back. Tangential offshoots can lead to trouble. Now, tangential offshoots could be deviating from the main course and going on to a dramatically unrequired input. For example, you tell him that, sir, I belong to this joint family setup. My father does this, my mother does this. I have a brother who is doing this. My brother is really interested in XYZ. Now, this part is not required. They are not there to assess your brother's profile. They are there to assess your profile. You tell him that, sir, he went abroad for his management studies. Now, the next question could be, so why are you not considering this? So all these inputs have to be carefully planned. You can't just shoot off on a different tangent altogether. Try to leverage this question as a marketing opportunity. Management students, you have to understand the concept of marketing. Marketing is the process of understanding the need of the customer and then creating a value proposition to satisfy that need. Remember that in this situation, when you're facing the panel, you are the seller. The panel is the buyer. They have to buy the right profile. You have to therefore sell that profile. So it's important for you to understand that what is the profile of a management student. And if you can include certain parts of this profile in your introduction, I think you would have done a good job in selling a value proposition to the panel. For example, management students should be good at working in teams. They should be task-oriented. They should be high on initiative. They should be high in terms of energy level. So if you can include these somewhere in the introduction part, it brands you positively and puts across a value before the panel, and you're able to market yourself smartly. Where do you stop the introduction? Where do you draw the line? Do you keep on unfolding continuously, endlessly, or do you stop somewhere? Would the panel ask you to stop? I'm sure you all face this challenge in the introduction part. Let's look at the sub-challenges there. Unfolding endlessly may lead to problems subsequently. When you keep on talking about yourself all that while, you may deviate into areas which you may not be comfortable holding onto in terms of answering a question. So you have to plan the introduction part very smartly, and you should know where to exit, where to pull out. And therefore the next challenge is exit point has to be sensed carefully. You have to study the body language of the panel, try to look at the different panelists and see what they are looking for. And the body language would also be an indication to you to pull out from the introduction part. But how do you do that? You can't just tell the panel that I'm done. It's your turn now. So you have to create an opportunity where you get the panel onto the next question. Something like this. It would be a smart way of pulling out from the introduction part by saying that, sir, is there any part of my profile which you wish me to highlight? Now, this is indicative of a conclusion. This is indicative of the fact that I am done and now it's your turn. And also it confines the panel onto your profile. So when you tell him any part you wish me to highlight, you're getting him back to whatever you said. And so you are containing him there itself. So this would be a smart way of pulling out or defining the exit point. Try putting the ball in the panel's court. You have to make sure that you don't stop abruptly. Otherwise, it may sound weird. It may sound as if you are not able to speak for that much time, and that eerie sound which comes in, that space, that dead space, when you are done and the panel is still not asking you any other question, this can be really disturbing. So you have to handle the situation smartly and hand over the stage to the panel gracefully. What if the panel stops you midway? You have planned your introduction very smartly, but the panel is smarter. Remember, it is the panel's prerogative. They may stop you wherever they wish to. So I have seen students getting disturbed here. I have seen students feeling uncomfortable because they had planned a certain part of the content, and they had to deliver it. So the minute somebody intervened them, they felt loss of an opportunity. This should not be the case. It may disillusion you, but you're required to maintain your poise. So that change management, which is required on your side, should be smart enough, and you should be able to handle that change in a certain way. Ability to manage change is being assessed. The panel wants to see when you have to move from situation X to situation Y, how smartly do you do it? You are telling him, sir, this is my favorite subject, and because you wanted a question on that subject, right? But the panel does not ask you anything on that subject, and they go off to the next challenge. So why do you wish to do an MBA? So whereas you were still stuck on that subject and you wanted a question there, the panel has moved on to the next dimension. So go with the panel. So I think these inputs would help you in handling the introduction part better and coming off as a management-oriented candidate, a smart candidate. Thank you.